Thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting us. I have a question.
Okay. Yeah.
What inspired the music choice for this piece?
So the piece it's multifaceted, but my personal connection to like it comes from the Tom, which is like the biggest, I guess not the biggest, but it's kind of a national fairy tale, like story of Ireland. And so I really wanted to use Irish sounds. There's a lot of eeriness in traditional Irish music, and I really love like the drone and the drive of like a bodhrán, which is like the traditional drum, and like the Irish bagpipes and the traditional music. And there's a tradition in Ireland when you're mourning something called keening, and it's you'll have a keener come to a funeral, and it's wailing to kind of express the sorrows and the joys and everything that's lost, and like the gains for the lost person. And I really wanted to hear a woman, maybe not keening, because it is like a very specific purpose, but have that kind of sorrow and that kind of movement in her voice. So I used an Irish band called Lankum. For the most part, they have some long songs, and I knew it would be a long piece. Like their average song was 8.5 minutes. And there's always a lot of instrumentals, so I was able to cut out all of the men singing. That was kind of like my main inspiration. I really wanted drive and momentum and this undercurrent, and I really wanted it to kind of be constant, because the story kind of never ends.
Yeah, I think it really moved well with your movements. Like the droniness was really cool, and yeah, I liked it.
There's a couple parts, I guess at the start, and then also later on where you're on the ground and the hoop sort of circling you, and it's a prop of some kind, but can you kind of expand on that a little more? Like, what's the symbolism of that?
Yeah, for sure. So this piece, a big part of it is reclaiming stories told and lost. A lot of colonized countries originally have a very strong oral storytelling tradition, and that's such a cyclical thing, but also remembering that history is often rewritten by the victors. So in what ways can like propaganda infiltrate like something that's been retold and retold and retold until it's transformed into something different? And how do these circular patterns, how can they change without us even noticing? And so it's almost a completely different shape, but it becomes like it's still cycling through. So that was like a big pattern, just like being like surrounded by something that's not what you remember it being or what it should be. Hoops are also circles. I wasn't even sarcastic. But it just felt like really important that the apparatus was not just something for me to get on and like show off on. I had the choice of also maybe doing like dance trapeze or doing it all contortion or floor work. But the hoop felt the most emblematic. And the way that my hoop, which is like specifically like very heavy, so it spins really well, like that motion of like orbit and spin, just reinforcing this like you're always surrounded by these stories and things are changing, and you can like hold on for the ride, but do you have any control over the story that's told about you? Yeah.
I wanted to ask about your costume and the design choice or color choice. What was your thought process behind the design?
So, I do a lot of commercial and corporate work, so I'm like big glitz and glamour and sparkles and kind of like showy. But this story I was telling today, or the stories I'm trying to portray, aren't about people who can be upfront. It's about like marginalized people and people whose stories who are always there and they're the reason things work and they uphold our world, and like the quiet beauty in that grace, but also the way that it's multifaceted and just all the different things that it can be. But it can be beautiful. But I also wanted a lot of movement. And because I couldn't have, well, I could have, but I feel like it would have been disingenuous to have like rhinestones and glitter. I wanted to play a lot with texture. And I wanted to use a lot of different fabrics because these are stories that have gone on for centuries and not just on like people who are less privileged, but people who, any level of privilege, they've been like the victim of like their stories being stolen or retold incorrectly or seen as invalid. So I wanted to try and have lots of layers always, and lots of movement and texture without it being its own thing.
Is that sort of what your character represents then as well?
I have a question before I answer that.
Sure.
What was the narrative you had put on that character? And what you must have described some kind of story.
Yes. I got, I sort of got a vibe of someone who was, I guess, looking for, I guess just trying to tell a story of others. And I guess that there was a bit of a victim vibe that I got a little bit. And that sort of seems to be a bit what you're saying, but maybe that's not what it was meant to be, but everyone interprets it their own way.
Thank you. And what was the narrative you thought of it?
I think, especially like with the expressions on your face and the song choices, a lot of like pain, and maybe you sort of mentioned like mourning. Maybe you didn't mention that, but I thought that. And I don't know, like something about the word like seeking something comes to mind. And I don't know, yeah, taking in your surroundings and the people around you.
But there also was a part when you're twirling and you keep looking out at the audience and the look on your face is almost sort of like, you know, don't you know what's happening? Or there's sort of a bit of like you're trying to say something with your expression there.
So I didn't have narrative. A big part of it was seeing how, like speaking of like how I was talking about narrative before, like how are we absorbing the things we see because we're not putting together the story. So how is like hearsay that we perceive or visual hearsay? So like seen and interpreted by like everyday audiences. As an artist, obviously, as a circus artist, very rarely do I use my voice, so I have the physical language to tell the stories that I do. And that was like a big part of it, was taking this idea of like oral storytelling and the transference and like colonization of stories, propagandization stories, and like using my art form to ask further questions about it. So I was using a lot, so actually instead of narrative, I had a foundation of westernized, but non-Eurocentric dance forms as my foundation, because I come from dance, and for the most part, the circus world I live in is looked at through like a balletic lens. And while I do have training in ballet, I was a modern dancer for a long time. Jazz dance forms, and traditionally black dance forms are obviously coming from different places. Most of them do have some Eurocentric, I don't know how to say it, like they're made for a Eurocentric audience, but they do try and stay true to certain things. So using the polyrhythmic movement, things that are traditionally found within like Afro arts. So I used Horton. Most of Horton's modern. I used some Dunham modern, which is Catherine Dunham was an ethnologist who created a modern dance form based off of Caribbean indigenous and Afro-indigenous groups. And that was a big part of my time when I was at A-Lee, was making sure like we did black dance forms as well as like traditional Eurocentric ones. And then also with the tie-ins to the Irish stories, the Tom, tap is an Irish and black confluence of art forms. So Irish step dancing, meeting with the polyrhythmic drumming of traditional groups when people were living together in like the ghettos and slums of New York and other places in America. So it's like a uniquely Afro-American and Irish-American art form about a tap. But thinking about like the way those rhythms have come into play and influenced each other. Yeah, so that was part of the looks, where it's like, it was a little bit like, what is happening? What do you think is happening? Do you see what's happening? Do you believe what's happening? What do you think? But I never I didn't put a story to it really. I really wanted to see what everyone else's story would be.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
That comes to mind. Can you speak more on your title choice?
Yeah. Actually, I had a long fight within, because I think, and we always were, looks better. Don't like that the H and half is so tall and domineering. Because I don't use goggles. And but to say and we always were kind of insinuates that things are better for everyone. And we were like that, and now we're not. And now no one has to fight, and no one has to like reclaim. And like the fight is eternal, even if one culture kind of reclaims what they need to. Things have been lost, but people are always fighting. People are always regaining and scrambling to reclaim what they can, and they will do it forever. So have felt really important. To have the have also insinuates like, yeah, the future, and maybe, I don't know if it's positive to say we have to fight forever, but I think it's more apt, more correct. Yeah.
Cool.
And I came up with it. Actually, I did not come up with it. It's stolen from a line in a poem called The Pomegranate, and it's the story of Persephone and Hades told from her perspective. A big part of what kind of got me going on this project idea was there was a woman who was the first female to ever translate the Odyssey, and it had only ever been translated by men, or interpreted by men before, and it changed a lot of the language. A lot of the interpretations were seen from a very gendered perspective. So I kind of dove a little bit into that, and then I got into this huge academic kind of research cycle about just how easily something has changed without even actively trying to colonize the language. Language is political, and it's not, it can be used in a really violent way without even meaning it. And to have something so culturally like relevant, like 2,000 years old, to finally have like the truth uncovered, or is it the truth? Because it was written by a man in a language that's now very lost. Maybe her version isn't more correct, but it does open so many like insights to what, like how important language is to the stories we tell. Yeah. Just reminding me of that. But, what was the most memorable thing about the piece?
I liked it when you were hanging from the one leg.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that I like that.
Do you think that's because it was the end? It's the last thing you saw? Do you think it was because I was there for so long? Or is it just an image that's sticking?
It's more the image, and it's just I know how hard that is to hang by one leg, so yeah, no, I did just appreciate that. I also liked it when you were in the basically in a plank position going in a circle. I thought that part was really
That was
good.
very cool.
Thank you. I did it like it was really good. It was like pretty fun.
It was really cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Usually it's like there, like a little annoying. So really,
I think like two different things stick out to me. I think the music really like played a big role in my experience of watching you perform. And I think that the from the first piece with the droney section, like second half of that song, I guess. Something about the music and the way you were moving just worked really well together, and I felt like I was very captivated and sort of, my attention was just locked in on you. And then I think in terms of like the act itself, or no, the movement, I guess, when you were on the rope part, I didn't know that was a thing, that you could, I don't know, go above the hoop, I guess.
are you telling me that I rose to new heights?
Yeah. No, but genuinely I was sort of like, when you, sort of like climb up there, I guess it starts spinning and you're already holding on to that section. I didn't know that was something, so that was really interesting to watch. And I think it also looked very powerful in a way, because you were like above the thing, especially like what we were talking about before, and you were watching it circle you and like eyeing it, and you had this look on your face, and then you were like above it. And I don't know, that seemed like a powerful thing. So that had some sort of like emotion behind it, I feel like.
Cool, thank you. Last two things, very specifically tagged onto that. What was my face doing? Because I was actually told often to do less with my face, so I just didn't do anything today.
Okay.
I just was breathing hard because it was hard, and I just like was focusing on like looking and seeing. But I wasn't trying to put any faces on, like any acting. So what was the emotion, I guess, like on the face that you were seeing?
I feel like there were points where, like, sort of like a furrowed brow, like a look of like concern, or like I was saying, like pain or something like that, which maybe was just the effort of doing a 10-minute piece. But I think, I don't know, it like played a role, I think, in even if you weren't trying, in the narrative, I guess, that I came up with. Like furrowed, focused, like locked in, especially when you're spinning and you're sort of looking at us and like tracking almost, which I guess maybe is, I can't think of the term when you're spinning and you have to, spotting. Spotting, maybe, I don't know, but.
We don't usually spot in Circus.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Because you're not controlling the spin, right?
Oh, you're with it.
For the ride.
Yeah. Okay. That's what my interpretation of your face was.
Yeah, I thought you were pretty pretty suave for the most part. But I did find the one part where you were spinning, yeah, you were looking at the audience, and it was like you were trying to tell us something, and it was sort of like, don't you know, or there was a message you were conveying.
Awesome. Okay. And then very last thing. Is there anything that you were left wanting after the piece ended?
I don't know. Maybe like a resolution to the narrative in my brain, but that was during watching it, not now after talking about it. Or just to kind of understand more what the character was going through.
I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, this might be part of it, but there was like once or twice where you came to the ground and you just kind of like slammed to the ground a bit. It's almost like you kind of like lost character just for a second. But that's really the main thing. Like that was the only time where I was kind of like,
What is that?
yeah,
Okay.
or sort of like an area to improve or think
Yeah,
about, or maybe just like polish a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Originally, for more context, this work was supposed to be like contortion and acro dance and a lot more floor stuff as well. That's hard to do, and I was a little ambitious on my application. And this is connected with the professional development grant, so not just the project grant. So I did the work, and eventually I think me and my mentor had a discussion about like, because my research went a little too deep, and I do about like 30 pieces of academic research that like span kind of more stories that could be told. I'd love to one day make a show with like all women. Circus is like a little bit like male dominated in a lot of the stories that are told. So I would like to expand it that way, and then that way it wouldn't just be me trying to like. Also, the piece I think would be like 25 minutes long. If I was going in and out of the ground as much as I wanted to originally.
Sure.
So that's like a big part of like why we're doing the Q&A and stuff. And so in my report, I can talk more about the future plans for development, not just of this piece, but of like connected pieces. Yeah. Thank you for being part of my story.
Thank you for
Yeah,
telling
thanks for
us
having
and
us. Yeah.
including us in your story.
Thanks, Val.
Thanks all.